Have you experienced a tragedy? A tragedy that hits you so hard it throws you off your course. It kicks the air out of your lungs. It creates an emptiness in your heart. It constricts your ability to think, to breathe, sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months, and sometimes even for years. There was the time you lost your job, the time you felt your heart break when you watched a relationship end, the illness or the accident that changed the course of your life, and then there was the loss of life itself. The time you had to bury your parent, your spouse, or much worse, your child. And then you begin to think, all hope is lost. The Dalai Lama explains, no matter what sort of difficulties we encounter and how painful our experiences may be, if we lose our hope, that is our main disaster. So it is about finding that hope, that light, that joy in the midst of this disaster that determines who we are. It's on the hard days when you don't find the strength to get out of bed, when motivation escapes you, the times that challenge you to your very core, those are the defining moments. A man started an empire out of his parents' garage, growing his company into a $2 billion money-making machine with over 4,000 employees. He was living the dream, right? After releasing his finest creation, he was fired from his own company. Rejected and at his lowest, he poured his efforts into a new enterprise and constantly refined his vision until he found himself back at the top. That man is Steve Jobs. He created Next and Pixar. Pixar went on to create the first animated feature film, Toy Story, and now is one of the most successful animation studios in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next. Jobs returned to Apple, and the technology developed at Next is currently at the heart of Apple's renaissance. One of the most successful television personalities and entrepreneurs, Oprah Winfrey, experienced years of abuse from family and friends. Despite an early childhood riddled with tragedy and adversity, Winfrey became an honor student in high school and obtained a full scholarship in university. Here is a woman who is one of the most influential people in the world, a woman who is constantly pushing for greatness. And then there was a great man, a man that saw his family slaughtered in front of his eyes, a man that saw the women in his family tortured in front of him, a man who 1,400 years later is still remembered for taking a stand for the truth. A man whose resilience has inspired people, it has inspired movements, and it has inspired revolutions. That man is Hussein, the grandson of the Holy Prophet of Islam. Mahatma Gandhi has said, "My admiration for the sacrifice of Hussein abounds, because he accepted death and torture for himself, for his sons, and for his family, but did not submit to unjust authorities." If you do not study the history of Hussein, you will never understand why Gandhi was inspired by him. Gandhi then inspired Dr. Martin Luther King, and Dr. King then inspired the entire civil rights movement. Challenges are the inevitability of life. It is in the face of these challenges that we must choose to be resilient. We must choose to find meaning. We must choose to keep fighting. Thank you, Yasmin Auntie, Ifat Auntie, and Ismat Auntie for being on the show. I know this is a very touchy and difficult subject to talk about, but I think that so many people can gain something from this talk. So inshallah, let's hope that we can all take something away from today. I just want to start off by asking, can you tell us a little bit about a challenging episode in your life and how it affected you mentally, physically, emotionally, and how you coped with it?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I would say the most difficult and painful experience in my life was when my son Arif passed away at a youthful age of 18. It was like within seconds my whole world was shattered and nothing made sense anymore. It was like every second was like a raging storm just waiting to consume me. I would dread the night. I would fear the day. Nothing, just nothing made sense. It was very difficult. But like you said, how did I cope with it? In fact, right at the time of the funeral, for a fraction of a second, it was as if I felt a tender hand on my shoulder. A voice telling me that it'll be all right. Like they say that God's will doesn't take you where His grace can't keep you. And that's exactly what it was. But I must say that the support of my loving family, resilient support, Allah's mercy and grace, of course, and the compassion of friends and community members meant a lot. And that was the support system that I leaned on to move along at that time, yeah.
In my case, it's a different story. I will not call it an incident that actually shocked me or something, because the person in my family, my own daughter, had a terminal disease. So it was slow and painful. And there are so many people who say different things, that you go towards that reality. It's like a preparatory stage. But then my mind used to tell me that what about what she just said, something that happened suddenly, you see. So it wasn't shocking, but it was coming in slowly, and the reality was dawning, okay? Not only on us, but even on the person herself. But the person was very, very, had a lot of faith on Allah, on the Almighty, and that's what brought a calming atmosphere all the time. But like you said, you have to wait for that day till it actually occurs, the reality actually occurs, and the person leaves this world. So it is not so easy. It's quite painful. But with faith on Almighty, it becomes easier.
Yeah. No, it's so nice to hear, that despite these are losses that, I think that it's so difficult to even imagine, but that you guys have so much faith, and that is just, it's amazing to just feel that faith, and so it's very good to hear. And Ismat Auntie, what about you?
My story is different from Yasmin and Ifat Bhai. I had a very cushy life, a loving husband, happy marriage, 2 beautiful kids, and all of a sudden, at the age of 27, with one car accident, my life was shattered. My world was torn apart. I will not call it a tragedy or an affliction, because I definitely believe that Allah knows what He is doing. He probably wants to take me where He wants to take me. So it was difficult to accept, especially the moment he died, and to tell my 2-year-old son that you will never see your father again, that thought. But at that instant I believed, when I was always hearing that sabr comes before the affliction, or before and I believed, because I did not feel that, although it was not a shock, but it was painful, but I did not feel the grief that others were feeling that I'm feeling for me.
Wow.
You understand what I'm trying to say? Others were feeling, oh my God, oh my God.
Right.
I wasn't feeling that. And I with conviction believed that there was patience before He gave me this. Because as Yasmin says, at that precise moment, even for a fraction of a second, there was something telling me that everything will be all right. And I've bent my life on that.
And Allah always tells you, and sometimes it's so difficult to understand this until it happens, that He doesn't test you beyond your limits, right? And as much as you say it and people just keep saying it, and they're like, He doesn't test you beyond, and it's so difficult to understand until it happens, and then you begin to realize that, wow, it is true, right? Okay. So what were the lowest points, and how did you feel during these low points in your life?
Okay, my lowest point was my children were very young. When they see everybody with their fathers, I remember my son madrasa, going to the madrasa, and there's a parent-teacher meeting, and then he doesn't have a father to go to. Then I have to see the teacher outside the madrasa, not in the normal setting, because before women were not allowed to see the male teachers. Or when there's a parent-teacher meeting in the school, and the teacher asks me all the time, because it's a new class, why are you alone? It's a very, very difficult moment to say I'm a widow. And then to explain that to a 3-4-year-old son, that you don't have a father, he cannot come there. So these were moments that were...
And it's difficult to watch your child also watching other kids, right, come with their dads and not having that. Yeah, I'm sure. Would you guys like to share something?
It's a lower point, but also sometimes in my case, it gave me kind of a support when I saw Arif's friends coming home all the time. They were there practically, I would say, for a month, because all of them were ready to travel overseas. They had already finished their IB at school here. So just seeing them, and they would say things about Arif that even I didn't know. That side of him would come out. So I would actually look forward to them coming every evening, friends and who knew him, and they would talk. And it used to, those low points, but it used to give me a lot of support. Yeah. And then.
So out of that the low points, that was the
thing that
uplifted
yes.
you.
And of course, Allah's support and his inspiration in taking up something practically. And I can't thank him enough for inspiring me to take up the study of the Quran with a group of friends. We got together and then we would reflect on the verses. And it gave me all the answers I was looking for. It explained philosophies of life, death, after, the hereafter, test trials. And at one point I started feeling at peace with God. I felt at peace with myself, with what had happened around me. And that helped me to move on.
Did any of you ever feel angry?
No. Not anger.
Not anger.
Anger was never the emotion that came to me. No.
Okay.
You mean anger at why this happened to me?
Yeah.
No, surprisingly, it never happened.
No, because as an outsider, if today somebody told me that this is going to happen to you, I would be angry. I would think I would feel angry, but you guys have been through it. So I guess that you're trying to say that no, that doesn't happen, right?
In fact, yes. In fact, this question comes up a lot when people interview. They say, did you ever ask why me? Well, I would say not at that time, but a little later I began to realize, not exactly questioning it, but I realized there was a plan in this in order for the higher purpose of life. Sometimes a turn in life is important, necessary. It brings out the strength, the potential within you. So never angry, but realizing that there's something.
That there's maybe a reason why it's
Definitely,
right?
yes, definitely.
And then sometimes you don't realize the reason at that time, but if you just accept that, okay, what has happened is He knows best, so then He will guide you and inspire you to go the way He wants you to go. So acceptance is important.
Just as you put it, lower point, it was because the girl had graduated just then and then got married, and now this after the meeting with the doctor, and you are aware now that you are going through this. So I don't call it lowest point, but the hope that you had that you're going now, a lot of time is spent into treatment instead of using it in sessions like this, in the sense that the person was able to relate to others about her education and how she would help the society. Instead, a lot of time was spent in treatment. That I can call it as a lowest point.
What are some of the things, that kept you going through the tough times at that time? You said some of them were, that your family was there, some recitation of Quran. What else? What are some things that, you felt you could hold on to during those times?
That the support system that I mentioned, that was an immediate kind of remedy or something that you could say to that effect. But then I realized slowly, of course, with time, like they say, that the pain never goes. It's 20 years down the line now, but the pain never goes. But you just learn to live with it, in Allah's grace. But I would say that with little time, then when you get that strength to move on, you realize that what you want to do. And Allah inspires you. And the thing that also helped me was that side of my son. And maybe I just want to share something here. Was that a few days after he passed at the eulogy which they had in the school at IST, he had finished his IB, so he did a lot of community services, going to orphanages and places like that. Yeah. So the principal gave this speech in a eulogy, and he says that I have this mental picture of Arif at the orphanage, and all the little young, he's swamped by all the little young children around him. He has nothing to give them other than himself, which is exactly why they're so delighted. So I just took that part, that compassion part in him, and I said that I'll move on in that direction. And Alhamdulillah, I can't thank him enough to have given me opportunities to do social work and to work with the less fortunate, and the joy that it
So
gives.
he inspired you.
Yes, he did. Yes, very good. Yes.
In my case, it was again the person herself, because of her patience, and in the time that was available where you could lead a normal life, take the advantage of her education and share it with others in the form of lectures. Like in the month of Ramadan, we were in India doing treatment. So we went to the community, and she asked for a space to be given to talk to the public. And I was just amazed at the strength with which she was sharing her experience, as well as not even showing the feeling of pain at all, but the sharing, that Allah has selected some people to go through this. That was the message that was coming out. That Allah knows best. Almighty knows best what you are and what is best for you. So that messages were really hitting hard, and I could see, I was smiling as a mother, but the people around what she was saying, people had tears in their eyes. They said, how can a person going through such a phase can still have such beautiful words on their tongues and speaking about the verses of the Quran and relating it to the Imams. They said that what is happening is very little. What is happening is very little and it's very minor. We have to be able to accept the reality that, like it or not, one day you have to depart from this world. So these were points in our life which were giving us strength to go on.
I had to now redefine my goals in life. Before, I never had goals because life was beautiful. So, when everything is there, you don't think about what's going to happen. We are all in a cocoon. That's a very important thing I would like to share, that life can be very unexpected. And so I redefined my goals, and now I had to be a father and a mother. So my role became totally different. It was very difficult to make sure that children grow up very normal, very stable, despite not having an important segment in their life. For that, I can say, and I can thank my parents that they have nurtured spirituality. It's very, very important. And the first thing that came to my mind when something like that happened was the book of supplications of Saifai Sajadiya. And because my parents had introduced us to that from a very young age, to recite du'as. And we used to recite it with the translation. So the du'as had meaning. And I remember one very, very, very beautiful du'a that had impact on my heart was the du'a in hardship and difficulties of Imam Sajjad. That was always by my bedside. And every day we just pick up. And you know the words of the Masumin, they tell you what is in your heart, but you don't know how to speak. But they make you think that, yeah, okay, this is what you need to do. And I think because I redefined my goals, life became different for me. I had to live for my children as both parents.
I think you're so right, also about the duas, because even me, you would say like you're young, and sometimes that these things, your parents tell you, but they don't really hit you, right? The importance of dua and the importance of Quran. But it's so true, because I always turn to Ziyarat Ashura whenever I feel sad, and instantly, I will just feel this sort of relief and calmness, so it's very true what you're saying, that it's important to instill this spirituality in children, from a young age. And I think that as we're becoming more and more modern, so I think it needs to be stronger now, because otherwise it'll just it's becoming challenging to instill these things in kids.
I'd like to add here that
Yeah.
I think we automatically transfer to that stage. If you're a religious person, if you believe in God, then you'll automatically go and seek for this.
Yes.
And this dua is one of the best ones in difficult times. It's lovely dua. You can open your heart to your God, and then when you finish reciting it, you feel calm.
I would like to just add something here, that the duas of the Masumin, sometimes you don't know where your goals are. But when you recite these duas, then they bring your goals to focus. So you know what it is there, but you don't know how to go about it or what you want. And these words of the Masumin actually bring your goals to focus. So it's really important to get attached to these things, and they bring you back to where you need to be.
Just add on to that as well. I agree with what Ismat and Ifat said, that the value that we receive from our parents from childhood, and this is what gives you the strength at the time. Because you see a lot of times there are incidents that people tend to get too hysterical, and they're just out of control of themselves. But Alhamdulillah, in my case, I felt a calm and I was composed, and this is what people are telling me. This is very important, and even later on, I feel that patience that you have, because you have to not only you're grieving yourself, but you have to support the grief of so many around you. Okay, you have siblings, you have other sons, you have your parents, your whatever around you, your husband, and this is something that I would like to share, that is so important, because each one is recovering at their own pace. It's not like everybody. It's not like one size fits all. Everybody has their own way, and so you have to have that patience. Otherwise, and we've heard of these instances that a lot of relationships are at risk. You see that marriages often, just break down, because each one perceives the other as insensitive towards their feelings. So a lot of patience and understanding.
You are also saying the woman is the nucleus of the family, right? And it's so important for, I think that is why, that so much respect is given to women in Islam, right? Because they are the ones that they have to take care of everybody around them. And then you were saying something earlier when we were discussing about how important it is for the woman to also sort of, at your time, make sure that she takes control, right, of her own life, right?
Yeah, because there are many out there who don't mean bad, who mean good, but they want to advise you on what you should be doing and what you should not be doing with your children. But you are wearing the shoes, and you know what you want for your children, what sort of family values you want. Because when you lose a husband, then many a times you lose all the relationships from the husband's side. So you have deprived the child of the grandparents, right? The paternal grandparents, you've deprived them of their fuis, their chachas. You understand the whole setup, and sometimes people don't understand that, and your relationship with them, and you don't want the children to be deprived of that part of the family. So when you know what you want for your children, then you have to stand by your goal. And I think parents play a very big role here, the girls' parents. I think I really appreciate my parents' nobility, that they had the confidence in me but I will make the right decision. You see, they said my doors are open. My dad said my doors are open, but he left me to make my decision. Where do I think I need to be for my children's sake?
If you translate this into the local community, it's very different because they are made to be separated. I mean, the husband's family come and take away everything of what the woman even had, and now she's left alone with her children. So it's very important that she takes charge of her life.
And you're so right, because when I did interview Rose at at the Widows, I actually did not know that this issue existed, and it was so sad to see that within in Tanzania, that the custom is that then the wife is left alone with her kids with nothing, and now all of a sudden the wife has to start supporting her children and supporting her future and the future of her kids, and it's very sad to see. But you're right. I think that it's very important for also before marriage, that as a when you're married, for you and your partner to sort of make sure that God forbid anything happens, then you're taken care of, right? Either party is taken care of and the kids are taken care of, right?
But on a local level, it doesn't happen. So we probably need to address this issue on a communal level, on a national level, right? And on an international level, because there has to be a support system for these widows. Everybody is not financially stable. Alhamdulillah, I had a very supportive family. I was financially safe. But when economic situation is the most daunting with a widow, and she becomes vulnerable to society, and our local women become that. Leave alone our local women, our community women become that. This is one thing that has to be addressed on an international and global level. And if you can do that, Fatima, in Swahili, that would be a really good thing.
You mentioned Rose. When you mentioned Rose, and that's why she has gone ahead and established this Tanzania's Widows Association. And now that this subject has come up, I'll just like to add here, in Bilal Muslim Mission, we are at the moment working, we are the board members of Bilal Muslim Mission, and we are assisting this Widows Association into different activities in their lives, because support is very important. It doesn't end at community level. It has to, we are, as the citizens of this country, we also have to awaken the public, and laws have to be established to assist, and then the laws have to be established where these people can find a place where they can speak their minds and hearts, and they should be supported. There should be a lot of support at national level also. And,
yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, and also it's a lot of times not only about finances. Here you've lost your husband, you're grieving, right? Your kids are alone, and you feel like they've lost a parent, and then on top of that you don't have any income, or you have no money, and you're just left stranded. You're absolutely right. Something definitely needs to be done to create this awakening that there is this issue. A lot of issues, I feel like, the more I interview, like, I've learned that there are so many issues out there. It's just that maybe we're selfish creatures, all of us, and we're living in our own little bubbles, and we need to really get out there. And I always push this, because when I was in university, one of my professors, this is a business school, and he said, listen, you're gonna make all the money in the world, but he's like, if you are if you do not provide service to people, that you're not gonna ever be successful. So make sure that you live your life providing service. And this is a business school, so you would imagine a professor telling you, no, your life should be about making money, And I've learned that it's so true. You will not find happiness if you sit and you live in your own little bubble and you don't really do much. You have to get out there and try and impact somebody's life, right?
Precisely. We're talking about the support system. Even in the community, we need a network of support system. We need people who have gone through the same experiences. We need bereavement counselors. We need professionals who can guide the woman to understand her rights. The family should also be involved, because sometimes it's a family business. The woman doesn't know anything about it. The husband died, and all of a sudden, because according to Sharia, the children's rights are more, and the children are young, so she does not know anything at all. And you see how helpless she becomes. If there is a support network system or a committee, a bereavement committee that looks into, and we have spiritual counselors, so all these counselors together form a committee that can go to people who are undergoing this sort of experiences, and give them some guidance, professional, spiritual, moral, and this can then go on a national level.
And I think you're absolutely right. You see, we are women, and maybe because you all had a family, so your experiences of dealing with death, and you are very strong and you were patient because you have a family and you had to be strong. There are many kids who lose their parents, and then they don't know what to turn to, and maybe they don't have that faith, maybe they're young, so then they start going to substance abuse, they start doing all these things. It's true, sometimes tragedy can lead you astray completely, so it's so important. I think that you're right, that we need a sort of support and a committee to help even kids, who are maybe who've lost a parent or who've lost a person in their life that's very important to them.
More than besides the moral support and all that, even the support of being skilled. A young woman is out there on her own now. She needs to be educated. She doesn't have the skills to do something to support herself, and that self confidence in her. So that's also very important on a community level.
In the death of a child, probably a strained marriage. So when we have this committee who can deal with all sorts of bereavement.
At all levels, community and then national level, and then different areas, because in other countries do have this. You can find those helplines on the net.
When I was doing the show on mental health, I looked so much for a helpline and I couldn't find one. And there are so many people, not only in our community, in this country, who are suffering from mental health issues. And imagine today if you're suicidal and you have no one to call. It's scary. It's not nice. It's not a good feeling. Or if you're going through something, a depressive episode, these things have to come to light, because these issues are big. They're not just small issues. This tragedy, challenges, death happens every single day. These issues happen. So, they need to be accounted for. And
there should be a place where somebody can vent that helps to reduce those feelings of hatred, of anger, like you just asked in the first place.
Especially in a young person.
Once you've been able to say something to someone, you are right, these helplines are not so common.
So I want to talk a little bit about, when you suffer, an episode like, not suffer, but when you go through an episode like this, the way you deal with things changes. Before, I'm young, sometimes let's say something happens to me, there's an outburst, okay, for example. But after you go through these things, the way you deal with obstacles change. Can you just tell us how the way you deal with things has changed?
Yeah, I said, that you get the inner strength. Sometimes there are strengths within you that you didn't know had the circumstances been different. But after some experiences, then a lot of strength comes out of you, a lot of potential. And then you feel, you find yourself, okay, you had a higher purpose in life, you had a role to play. Maybe now I can talk maybe to people going through the same, and can offer some support in whichever way, which maybe won't have been, because you have to go through that yourself to be able to. So you do find you don't just crumble down, or you don't just get shattered. You at once know that, okay, there's something behind this, Allah's will, and He knows what's best. Because like you mentioned earlier, Fatima, that I think it's in Surah Baqarah in 286, that Allah will not impose on a soul a duty beyond its capacity. Yeah, but at that moment, to have that strength, and that to know that there's something behind it. Yeah. These experiences do help you get that patience, that integrity.
I know of a person who was very bubbly, and also probably short-tempered. But after going, this person is a survivor. of the terminal disease has totally changed. Calmer, and the words have changed, the way to deal with the things, how they look at life now. Okay, not looking down upon anything or anyone. So much so even the animals, you see. And that feeling of care becomes very, what you call, at a higher level, and they're ready to share.
Yeah, they say it takes a destiny for life to unfold. Yeah, and we actually see, like, it's about 35, 36 years now after my husband's death, and his destiny is unfolding. I sometimes think I can understand or probably realize a little bit of the higher purpose, and I would really give this message that value, treasure the moments with your spouses. You don't know until you lose them. Nurture your relationships. Obstacles will come. Life is not easy. It's a roller coaster ride, and you will go through difficulties, but nurture those relationships. They're very important. And however silent the father is, he plays a very insignificant role. His presence is still important. It still gives security to the woman and to the children. Sometimes our youths feel that, oh, he doesn't play a lot of part with the children, it's only I who's doing everything, this, that. But his presence alone is important. It is that sense of security over the woman, over the children. This is a very, very important message. And life is very fragile.
Rose was saying the same thing again, that treasure the moment that you are with your husband. You don't know what's going to come. So she says the young couple nowadays, they don't realize. They get annoyed and disturbed at small things.
It's also that life has become so fast paced. It's sad. Like, you're making plans for next week today, and like in terms of like your schedule. And I've learned something from today, just from talking to you right now, that I think, I've been brought up constantly working, constantly pushing myself, doing, and sometimes it's okay to slow down, and sometimes it's okay to smell the roses, like they say, right? And just sort of, cherish those relationships, cherish that time, because although you're not doing anything, I get very antsy when I'm not doing something, like if I just have to sit and do nothing, I get very like anxious and antsy, because that's just my personality. But sometimes it's very important to just relax and enjoy a dinner and not have to be on your phone, and not have to take a phone call or whatever. And you're absolutely right. It's so important.
Sheikh Ali Jafar says, what is wrong in the now? What is wrong in the now? Why can't we live? Our life, or our children's life, have become now not life for yourselves, it's become life for the Facebook.
Of course.
What do I want to put on Facebook? Where am I going with my husband? What am I eating? What holiday am I going? What honeymoon? Why is it important? You see, that privacy is not no more there, that only you and your husband are sharing. Now you want what is so beautiful, and what you alone should be sharing, you want the world to share. And you've lost the treasured moment. It is really sad that we are not living for ourselves now, we are living for the world outside.
So it's an artificial life, more or less. It's an artificial life. Everything has to go on the Facebook. There's no privacy, like you said.
And you see, just with statistics, if you see a lot of couples in Hollywood, okay, for example, why do their relationships end? Because they're in the limelight the whole time. And okay, maybe sometimes it's not because they want to be. It's just sad that they are, okay? But it's true that because their life is constantly in the limelight, and they're constantly filled with paparazzi, and we want that life. That's the sort of life that we want, and it's quite ironic, but you're absolutely right that we need to have that privacy, right? Yeah. Somebody once told me, when there was, before you get married, there's the marriage counseling classes, and someone said that during the class they were explaining to us, how we should be with our husbands and our spouses to be, and they said that when the electricity goes off, don't complain, and don't like start getting upset. Light some candles and call it a candlelight dinner. It's so true, we have to I think that is important, that things will come your way that you don't want. Allah always says He will test you with health, wealth, and your kids, right? And you just need to know how to take the positive out of it, right?
I believe that human beings in general have to be prepared for this reality. It doesn't happen to just a few people, it will happen to all. So human beings in general have to be prepared for this kind of reality and accordingly plan their lives. We should be conscious of this reality all along, whatever we do. And if you look at we Muslims, for that people, I don't like to say just Muslim, but all religious people have in their books, the mention of this, that you have to prepare for this life. But like just earlier on we said that because people all the time want to put themselves on the Facebook, they forget this reality, and then the shocks, and then the part where they cannot handle the situation. But if you are aware all along, conscious of this, that it can happen to anyone, anytime, any place, then it will be easier to deal with it, and accordingly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also guide us, and lives can become normal. This is what I feel. This message.
As a parent, I would say that treasure your children, enjoy them, and cherish each moment with them. Yeah, don't make their lives so hectic and so busy, which is a lot the case now. To this class, to that activity, and usually the childhood has gone. And at the end of the day is here, and the kids are tucked into bed, and then comes morning in the same routine. Enjoy them, just that children time with them, because like earlier I said that in spite of all this, the strength and the sabr and all that, but today what wouldn't I give in this world just to hold him once again?
Of course, that you've said it so beautifully, because it's true. I think that parents, because this world is becoming so challenging, right? Parents just want their kids to be, and their intentions are always good, they want their kids to be the best at everything, but sometimes they forget at what cost, right? Yeah. So there's, we've learned there's no one full proof step to overcoming a challenge or going through a challenge, because everybody deals with it differently. But what advice do you have for people, who have gone through a difficult part in their life, and now that so many years later you guys have gone through it, you've reflected, what you've been through, what advice do you have for people?
Just to basically, it's just to have faith in the Almighty, because all power is in His hands, and to know all the time, to tell yourself that there's a higher purpose, and He knows that just basically that He knows it. But sometimes our minds cannot fathom or cannot comprehend all that's happening to us. But in that case, that's why we believe at Muslims that we submit to His. The times that our intellect doesn't work, it's just submit. He knows what's best for you. So have that strength and move on. Do something positive. Make a difference in somebody's life. Gather that strength and be. It may be a small thing, but make a difference in some sense. And that way you will find that you are actually living. And I would say a lot of horizons open up once you make that, you're determined to do something. Allah, He opens a lot of horizons.
Time itself is a healer. Time is a healer. So this awakening should be there, this understanding should be, everybody should be told about this, that sooner or later there are some people who feel that they will never heal. The pain will never go, because there are these there are these moments when you are doing something, and something is said by someone which is exactly what the person who is passed away had said. So then tears fill up in your eyes, okay? But because even if you, so many, like she said, how many years have passed? It's been 35 years have passed. But that pain is always there. But then, like we said, that time is a healer. People have to know that time will heal. And we learn to live our lives normally then.
Same here. I would say that from childhood we should teach our children, we should nurture their spirituality. I felt over the years that we have to get them connected to God. It is, the rituals are there, the namaz, everything, they will not understand them. But we have to teach them just to talk to God when they are sad. You know, when mommy said something, when some sibling has said something, when daddy ma or nani ma have said something, and you are really hurt, or in school somebody has said, just sit in the corner and say, oh Lord, Allah, I'm so sad today. I don't know why this is happening to me, and just cry out. But we have to teach that sort of connection to the children. It's very important.
Nowadays, you know, it's true because we teach children to fear God, and I think that's so wrong because, you know, a lot of people have said that why do, you know, a lot of people sit on the minbar and talk about Allah's wrath, because if they talked about His mercy, then nobody would do anything, right? But I think that it's so important to talk about God in a loving way, that He is your friend, and you know, in that sort of way that you don't feel scared, you know, all the time, or you don't feel like, you know, like, oh, you don't want pray namaz, you're gonna go to hell. It doesn't work like that. You know, you have to teach your kids from a young age everything, make it in a positive way, right? So they can
also not to live a pretentious life for the couples, not to live a pretentious life. Don't live for somebody else, live for yourself. You know, don't have a fake life, live in the now, and realize that this is not going to be there every day. You know, you're not going to live this life over and over. You are going to come through some challenges, and be prepared for that. But if you are living your life for yourself and not a pretentious life, then you'll be able to deal with challenges better, because you don't have to answer the world now. You see, when you're living a pretentious life, you go, oh my God, what will others think now? Or what will happen? You know, but if you have lived for yourself, then you have to cope only for yourself, not for others. I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, you're talking complete sense, because it is true that like I said before, I think that we get so caught up in what, like you said, everybody else thinks, Facebook, you know, you want to enjoy these like great honeymoons and great, you know, and for what?
Yeah,
you know?
for what? What are you trying to show?
Yeah. It's the moments that count, right?
Precisely.
Okay, so I think you guys have pretty much answered this question, but just to wrap it up, you know what's beautiful about this is that, you know, you plan like life, right? You know, I like sat here and like I planned all these questions, and then everything unfolded so beautifully that I didn't even have to go through each of the questions. But you know, a lot of people feel like they won't recover. People who have lost their parents, or they've lost their loved ones, or they've gone through such tragedy, maybe they feel like, I'm not going to ever recover. And maybe it's happened within a year or 6 months, and they still feel that pain, and they still feel that they can't get up in the morning. Like you said, you know, that what you were experiencing at the beginning, that, you know, you can't wake up, you don't want to see the next day, you're dreading the night. What is the last piece of advice you have for those people? Like, let's say if it's today a friend came up to you and they just said that, look, this has happened to me, I cannot do it, I don't think I'm ever going to get better.
I think it goes back to the verse in the Holy Quran and to God, that He will not impose upon you something that you, but it's up to you to find the strength. You know, like He has it, He's put it in you. His mercy cannot not put it in you for you to break down, or, you know, not able to go on and finish that's the end of your life. It's not like that, because He has put the ability in you, but it's up to you, and you can only do that if you have the faith in Him, and you get that strength, and you move on. That's basically what I would say.
Yeah, for me it was different, because I felt I have to get up, and I have to do it, because I have a 2-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. I cannot say that I cannot do it. I just had to do it.
I would put it this way, that in my case, the person herself was giving the strength to me, saying that now that this has happened, this is Allah's doing, and we have to submit to His will. So let's just go along with it as long as it takes. And Almighty is the healer. Every time the thought comes that now we're going to be separated, okay, those times. And the person would say, it's Almighty decides. It's not the disease that kills you. It's the time that is allocated to the person to leave this world. So that's a message that I want to give to all, that it's not the disease, because there are many people suffering, going through this, and then they actually don't know what's going to happen, and it depresses them a lot. But it's not the disease that kills you, it's the time that Allah has allocated to you to live in this world. Not forgetting the fact that this person or people going through terminal disease have to live through that, okay? But it's only when the time comes they will leave this world.
I just want to add on to that. It's like, many times I feel that it's the fear of the unknown that is an impediment for you to move on. Now, in my case as well, the fear of the unknown, so you try and get that knowledge. And in my case, like I said, the Quran offered all and even meeting up with the scholars, reading the right books, that helped a lot. That gave me, this thing to go on. So this is a message I would give to, don't just, it's not used. There are ways to come out of it, and these are some of the ways that are very helpful to me.
And you said such an important thing earlier, that you start to realize the strengths you never had, right? And the last time we met, you said that through all this, you were able to meet such wonderful people in your life, right?
We've never have met you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you meet like-minded people and you realize your goal is the same. And life is so much more pleasurable than when you have people to.
If at your age you are already doing these programs, I think it's going to benefit the younger people much more. And
really commend you for that. Yeah?
Those who believe in religion, they all know that there is life after death. So if that reality is in our minds, then we will prepare accordingly. And like she said, then there will not be a fear of the unknown. It is known, yet unknown, yet you prepare for it. Okay, because there's no one who comes and tells you what happens. But the holy books tell us all that.
And that is why many times I refrain from using the word "I've lost my son," because I feel when you lose something, you don't know where that thing is. But I know he's with his Creator, and with his mercy we will meet one day, inshallah.
They've passed into the other world now.
And it's always nice to, I think that is a beauty of our religion, that we have, of Islam, that we have this year after, that we have something that this world is just temporary. We are here only for a short time, and we have to remember this. It's not only for religious purposes, it's for everything. Like you said, enjoy the moment because it's temporary. You're not going to have it forever, right?
And when we feel we will not come out of it, it's like despairing of Allah's mercy, which is a great sin. We cannot despair of His mercy, because definitely He has something better for us. We may think it is not better because it's not easy to live, but we are thinking in terms of materialism better. But then He is thinking in terms of a lot of other things. He maybe probably want to give you some more insight or wisdom or whatever. So we cannot despair of His mercy and say, no, I cannot get up or do anything.
Okay. Do you have any closing thoughts?
I think you said it all.
Okay. Thank you so much. As I've learned so much from just speaking to you guys. I really, really enjoyed it. It's like, for me, it's more of a conversation that we had. And I think that I can take so many lessons from what you have all had to offer. And I really hope that, that people can just instill some of the things that we've talked about in their lives to make it better, right?
Thank you for inviting us.
It's never easy to talk about the most difficult moments in our lives. Moments that shake us and sometimes take us to our lowest. Today we have had with us 3 brave women who have shared a piece of themselves and a piece of their journey. They've taught me that just like in life, you will stand, you will fall, but you will rise again. God shows us that while we're praying, we start by standing. Then we fall to our knees and plaster our face to the ground, only to rise up back again. So you see, God did not just command a formula for prayer, but in it, He's showing us a way to live. He's teaching us that we will stand, we will fall, but we will rise again.